Greetings, welcome back to my channel. This is Stasia Bliss. We are here to have the life experience together, and the topic word is Kundalini. Okay, some people ask me why I speak about this in terms of Kundalini instead of chi or prana. I do use the word prana. And I guess I'm trying to remove some of the stigma around the word. So we'll just begin there. And this channel is about embodiment of this life force, this Kundalini. So today I would like to run you through a little practice that is good for anybody, anytime, but is a really great practice for embodiment of life force, embodiment of this divine essence. I mentioned this a lot in other videos, but many of us live in the head. We live in the mind. We live in the mana maya kosha and the vijnana maya kosha, not always vijnana, but the mental and the wisdom body. And even like, 6th and 7th chakra gates, especially as you awaken to higher spiritual awareness, it's really easy to be up here. So this is like part of a peak moment where you get this like vision and this aha moment of reality, but then Kundalini has to rush back down the spine again to the third dimension, to density. So it's curled up, it's coiled up at the base. You have this God realization moment. It bursts up your spine, activates dormant areas of the brain, your pineal gland. You get this like whole brain activity moment because you're getting the sight, you're seeing. This is what causes the paradigm shift, the awakening moment. You get to see the big picture, okay? But then Kundalini Shakti has work to do. She has to drop back down to third dimension, to regular life, which can be that depressing moment. Like you were having bliss, you knew it, like you discovered the meaning of reality, you felt amazing, you even had like pseudo superpowers, And then Kundalini comes back down because the preparation work now is to go and figure out how we can hold that God essence in the body permanently, long term. So first is a temporary, and then it's like we're checking the system breakers here. We're seeing how much power this thing can really hold. And then if we're below capacity, which pretty much all of us are when we have this experience, few people burst into a God moment and then just stay there, though some people do. And they probably have been prepared for lifetimes for that activation moment. Otherwise, you are sent. Here's the wind. I feel like the wind always kicks in when something is true. That's part of how I get confirmation. So then this life force energy drops back down into the lower chakras, into these breakers, these valves, and it's understanding, it's intelligence, right? Where the blocks and kinks are in each floor of this consciousness, right? Each level of this consciousness. At ground floor, checks the foundation. Can the foundation support this God being? Is the foundation strong? If you were going to move into a house, you would have it inspected, and you would have the inspector come in and check out everything. And like, if they come back and say your foundation is wobbly or cracked, that's not a good sign for a house. And you would be wise to reconsider, unless you're just wanting to break it down and, redo it anyway. So, Kundalini Shakti is a bit more loving and realizes that our foundations, though they might need to be remade, they can, and we're still worth investing in. So the God force is coming in, and it is going to flip every one of these houses at some point. It's going to say, all these children are mine. God swoops in, and it doesn't matter what state your house is in, your temple is in, when that life force comes in, you're going to get restructured. You're going to get cleared out, decluttered. You're going to get the whole, what's her name? Maria, clear the clutter lady, and feng shuied out on the inside. And the way this happens is through each of the breakers, the chakra points, the valves for each, area in your life, so to speak. So again, foundation, root chakra. Family situation, second chakra. Second chakra can last a really long time, and it can seem like it's going into suspension mode for a while all other chakras that are related are getting worked on and tying it back into this very important ancestral connecting line. So I'm feeling into this because there is this web, you can call it the matrix or whatever, the divine web. A lot of cultures use spider totemry as an analogy, like in Egypt, Nut, she creates the world by casting the net. It means the net caster. And this is the weaving points, the karmic weaving. Even the runes speak of the old women under the tree of life weaving the fates. And so this theme of weaving, and one of those weaves goes through that second chakra area that weaves womb to womb to womb to womb. And interestingly enough, if you take a look at a woman's placenta, and if she delivers a baby and then the placenta comes, the veins on it look like a weaving. They're all bulged out and they're like make a beautiful pattern, a weaving. Looks much like a web holding the baby. So in a much the same way as within, so without, as above, so below, this weaving is our interconnected relations, and much of that goes through the second chakra area. And so we also have the closest karmic ties and mirroring going on in those family connections. Probably have traveled with those people over and over again in many, many, many different dynamics to really do the core weave. There's a core weave in that center. And so it's a tricky one. You could even say it's a lifeblood line. In cardology, there's a life path and a soul path. And I feel that similarly, we come here, and a lot of us that call ourselves black sheep are not, for a while, really feeling connected or relating to our blood family. And we feel almost like pushed away to figure out what this different identity and purpose is. And then we attract people we call our soul family that are not related to us by blood, but we feel related to them in that we're all going through similar things. So that soul path also could have traveled with these people many times, and maybe in some timelines you have been in life path with them, the bloodline path. And so there's these layers. When I think of the soul family, I think of the appendage, or the assemblage point, the assemblage point, a place right above the high heart where we assemble our reality from. In the Toltec tradition, they talk about that being how we are like in this reality, that we are assembling it through our focus and attention to this particular version of reality. And so we might get a little trippy for a moment, but if you think of yourself like doing that assembling or directing that assemblage point from somewhere else in the allness, another planet, another dimension, another higher observation point, bigger you, larger Russian doll stacked you, seeing where consciousness is needed in this overall webbing. This cloud looked just like the crescent moon over here. It's tiny, and the moon is always over there. So I was like, what's happening? So this assemblage point, many of us are assembling ourselves here in this reality now in order to do a lot of this deep valve upgrading and sort of like template that for reality, if you will. Do that in our own body so it, you know, is repeated, it's mirrored. It's being the cause of your reality instead of the effect. To understand you're consciously coming in and creating a new fabric of reality through your attention on creating your own fabric of reality, and here creating something new and different. And some of that is like, okay, finding the family line, the second chakra, realizing even the family line wants an upgrade or wants new wisdom or wants to grow in certain ways. And so being a piece that breaks off and goes out and explores and finds other wisdoms and integrates them into your being and brings it back and plugs it into the family grid, and a deeper healing can occur. So that's part of the phases we've talked about in a different video. So Kundalini Shakti goes down, assesses all the valves, which ones need upgrades. And of course, these are life situations that get served, you know, as we're clearing out old, blocked, you know, stagnant energy, or you could just say the lower voltage wires. And that's in the brain too, the connections in the brain that are creating and co-creating with you the hormones to create a certain reality. Like that reality projection is getting rewired by life force, by God force, by love, Shakti, Shekinah, Mother, Kundalini, whatever name that you prefer. So when we, for example, in the second chakra, come back from our journeying and seek to bring our healed self back, there can be some, you know, pushing up of other people's stuff, because now you are delivering the Shakti, the prasad from the temple. And then, of course, the wires run back and forth. And you're faced with different challenges, and then the shadow work that comes with that. Like, where is this in me still? What do I need to integrate and love about myself now that I'm seeing this showing up here? And it can feel like a big bite to chew on. And so again, Shakti comes in, clears out the powerhouse of the third chakra, and all the fears, all your fears start to manifest so that they can be transformed, so they can be transmuted. And it moves up to your heart. And all the things that could potentially break your heart in this reality, many of those are explored in an attempt to expand the heart, which we've talked about. And the throat. You know this one, if you've gone from a closed throat where you can't say your mind, through the process of a throat opening where you just feel that gut feeling like you just have to say it, and if you don't, you're gonna freak out. Not bubbling up and holding it in and having it feel terrible, and then learning to go ahead and say, and not just be blunt anymore, but learn to be more graceful in your saying. So that's a whole process as well. And something, you know, I'm happy to walk you through if you need that support, from closed throat to open throat. There's a lot of great exercises for that. I don't know if I did the exercises in the throat chakra video I did recently, but there's some lovely exercises to open the throat. Maybe we'll do a video about that. And of course, triggering situations that would invoke the opportunity to open your throat will be delivered up by life itself, by Kundalini, in being the pulse that runs through the great weaving, can easily find and locate the perfect matching, triggering person or situation and degrees. So when we learn to navigate these with gratitude and see that these things are for me to work through them in the highest timeline possible, to give them the highest dose of love and awareness and consciousness, so that that same scenario repeating anywhere in humanity has an influx of awareness, has an influx of love. Has already had like the walls knocked out and like expansion has occurred in it. So someone else experiencing that thing is not in the same restrictions. This is a thing in humanity, in the allness, right? Like if no one's ever experienced a thing, or you don't know anyone who's experienced a thing that you're experiencing, it feels so heavy. It feels like the weight of the world. And as soon as you start to become aware that other people have gone through it too, you get lighter and lighter, because now you realize you're sharing that weight. Well, that happens unconsciously too. Unconsciously, a template for humanity is only running in a certain set of limitations while people are, playing it out that way. And as the culture evolves, like freedom for different groups of people or so forth, now existing in that paradigm has more flexibility because of the people before. That's these generational lines. So as we do this work, as we find ourselves in the upgrade and the hard situations where we're getting the experiences that grant us the opportunity to bring more Shakti in, as we're in that, to also be aware that this is a service to humanity. That for you to complete this mission, to complete this task, ouch! Oh, I forgot I have incense right there. Dang it! Woo! So it's talking to me too. It's like, watch out. Do you know what that reminds me of instantly? And this is where we have trapped things in the body from sensations. Not necessarily good or bad eventually, but initially, yes. When I first traveled to India, they literally like have incense burning everywhere, and like they're just sticking out of walls and door frames like this. And so sometimes I'll just be like walking through and like singe my head or my arm or my hand in various times as I walked around India the first time, until I started to like add that into that was a paradigm shift. Like, oh yeah, like be aware of incense. Like that is a perfect example of what I was just saying. Like I never had to be aware of incense sticks sticking out anywhere in the West before the year 2000, right? That's the time I started traveling to India. And so before that, that was just not a thing. I didn't grow up in a hippie household. I wasn't used to this. And even in the West now, we usually have them in our little, like, incense holders that sort of like extend beyond the fire. But not in India. They're just out everywhere because that's normal. And so I started to incorporate that in and not singe myself. But interestingly enough, like it's a very profound, sharp presencing that happens when you burn yourself on a tiny tip, right? Same if you're cooking and you get a little burn, of course. It's a little different, but your consciousness becomes very one-pointed for that moment. And it really like focuses the energy. I'd be curious to figure out which line that I just touched that on, what meridian on my foot. I'll have to look. Yeah, so it just reminds me that this conversation about, doing a bigger work for humanity, about when we upgrade ourselves, we really help transform the planet. That's very poignant, says the incense stick. So just reiterating that with you. Well, we've been going here for about 20 minutes, so I guess I'll wrap it up. And I appreciate you for being here. I really do. I hope this conversation held something for you. Take whatever it was, leave the rest. Sometimes, I just kind of spiral out. Let's bring it back full circle to say that, this Shakti penetrates you and does the work of clearing out so you can actually hold this energy of God love. And that's the whole purpose, in my opinion, and what I've, experienced. That's my takeaway, is that's the whole purpose of this life, is to embody the divine in a physical form. So spirit and matter are reunited. And in this divine marriage of the allness, the seen and unseen, the known and unknown, it's like a completion, a world card, which we're not to yet in the tarot, but it will come eventually. So in that process of cleaning out, or clearing out, this makes up the bulk of our experiences, the bulk of our lives. And it's really so potent to have that perspective to lean on if you're having a hard day, that there is benevolence in the process, and that what is happening in the moment, what you think is happening, may not be what is really happening. Of course, it's the manifestation on one side, right? It's this idea of yin and yang, if it looks like this on top, like what's happening on the bottom? What's happening over here in the light? What's happening, like you're in the day over here, what's happening in the night on the other side of the world, And this always keeping the scales, the balance in life. Just some pondering, so I won't dive any more deeply into those things today. But again, wrapping it up, thanks for joining me. Dad's still in the hospital, so your prayers are always welcome. And definitely some deep contemplation time about reality for myself. And so hopefully that wasn't too far gone for you. Please leave your comments below, except for about what I need to do for bags under my eyes, guys, because I appreciate it, but I am aware of what's going on with the transformation of my beingness right now, and I'm putting my time and love and attention in that the best way I can. But I also am just going to show up authentically for you. Some days are good, some days are bad. I'm not just going to skip a day because I'm having a bad day. So hopefully you can relate and experience some of that with me. And if I have dark circles, maybe I had a late night, maybe I was crying, maybe something's actually going up for me. And Kundalini awakening doesn't mean life stops happening and you suddenly became an angelic being that's glowing golden light out of all your skin, and you just have bliss and love all the time. We'll talk about that a little bit more another time, but there's polarity in this whole unity, within the one is the two, or the many. And so we do it all. And it's just the grace we bring with it, the acceptance, the love, the presence, the honesty, the vulnerability that matters. If we can come into that place together, we can start being real with each other and accepting one another, and having real conversations, right? Where things matter. And we just stop tiptoeing around each other, and we just say the real things. And this is something I'm saying to myself just as much. There's still people in my life that I tend to do that with. And a lot of times that's family. Because, no one wants to get anyone mad or upset anyone or rock the boat or whatever. But, we're all attempting this awakening together. We all are learning to mature and grow up as humans together. And, we all have the stuff. If you're in a human body, you have bad days. You have bad hair days. You have bad face days, bad weeks. And you have good ones. So an awake and aware person doesn't just mean they're glowing all the time. Believe me, I've met plenty of glowing masters in India, and there's always an underbelly to that. And it's just okay, sometimes like the more holy, like the deeper the wow on the other side. And so, you know, like it's all present. It's just we're showing some of it and we're not showing some of it. But if we can make a habit out of kind of sharing a little bit of our totality, then we can start to relate to each other a little bit better and have more empathy and compassion for each other, realizing we're all in the same boat here, being human. We might come from different backgrounds or circumstances, but at the end of the day, we all have these human bodies with skin and organs and blood running through our veins, and have to breathe and like manage the ins and outs of this physical body. You know, maybe you have a variation on the physical body, okay, but in general, no one's running around out there without organs, okay? Like no one's running around out there without bones or blood vessels or a brain, even though sometimes it might feel like it. So like having compassion for the reality of what that's like. Now going to the hospital really brings that home, where the physical body is not performing. And that really takes a toll on the rest of a being. The spiritual nature, emotional, mental nature, everything is reliant here on you know, the physical body state, and how much we can be with what we have and stay in a homeostasis place as much as possible. And that word's weird because it's not a stasis, it's not static, it's dynamic. But again, we're trying to surf the waves, as Dr. Thornton said the other day, and I love that analogy because it is, you know, we're literally surfing on the waves of this reality in attempt to, you know, stay as balanced as we can, or when we fall, when we nosedive, when we, you know, take a skew out to the side, that we're finding our bounce back or our resilience. And humanity's doing that as a whole as well, as it stretches out of its old shape. Like, you know, where does it land when it comes back? You know, this is what we're all seeing together now, and we get actually to co-create that with the way we're managing ourselves and our own shifting lives and realities. So it can be overwhelming, especially if you feel like you're alone out there without a, you know, life raft, and you feel like your surfboard's missing and you're just bobbing about wondering where your pals are, you know. So this is where I have to always bring it back to, like, there is no one else. Like, I gotta be my best friend first. I gotta love myself first. You know, some say born alone, you die alone. Even if there's people around you, like, this is a solo journey in a lot of ways. A lot of ways, people around you are reflections of the inner state and our relationship with ourselves, with our minds, with our emotions, with the way we look. And as that relationship breaks down, it's difficult to have these outer ones, because they tend to mirror that. So, okay, I said 20 and then it's like 10 more minutes. I guess I'm chatty today because of Dad and all the deep death contemplations and fragility of life stuff. And my sisters have all been here the past 24 hours, one from across the country, and we're just, you know, like having some real talks. And it's very refreshing and deep and good. And some tears and some laughter. And yeah, if you need support in this way, please do reach out. Send me an email. Reach out. I do check. Sometimes it's a minute because stuff's going on for me too. And if I missed your email and you wrote me and I haven't written you back, I must have missed it, because I really don't ignore emails. So if you send me another one, it should connect to the old one. Like, hey, did you see this? I'd appreciate that, because I want to be there to support you. That's one reason I'm here, not just the videos, but I'm also a real person, and I can listen to you. I can be there with you and offer any advice that I found is helpful to me, and, you know, maybe will be helpful to you. And that is my hope. So, okay, loves, thanks again. Thanks for being here. I love you. Thanks for your support. And I'll see you soon. Namaste.